This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, friends. Welcome to goonlinetrainings.com. We are talking about store procedures already, but let us understand a few more features about stored procedures, right? So, what is a stored procedure? Already we know. And so, if somebody asks you what is a stored procedure means, it is a SQL Server object. So, it is there to centralize your code. So that is the purpose of the store procedure, and where you can implement SQL and T-SQL programming, right? So in a view, so you will not be able to implement a T-SQL programming, and views are limited to only one query, and you cannot have input parameter, you cannot have variable declarations. So dynamic, views cannot be implemented. What do you mean by dynamic views? So you cannot supply a value to the view. So that is the limitation of a view, right? So all these things we have seen already. Now, so what is the need for the store procedure creation, execution, and how to implement a cursors inside the store procedures? That is also we'll see as part of our store procedures classes. Now, we already discussed about all these things to centralize. We have used store processes and everything, and no network traffic, right? So the following are the disadvantages when we keep the code at the client side. All these things we discussed already in previous classes, right? Now, advantages of store procedures: no network traffic from client to server. Maintenance is very easy. Security can be very high to the store procedures, and there is a unique feature called caching and execution plan. Because of this feature, stored procedures are faster compared to other features like use and functions, create once, call multiple times, centralized code, reusability of the code. So these are the advantages of stored procedures. Okay, so the caching and execution plan is a unique feature. So this is what I wanted to discuss today. So now, so DB object, what do you mean by DB objects? When you go to SQL Server and when you open a database, when you open a database, you can see lot of things, tables, views. When you go to programmability, you can see store procedures. Whatever you can see, that is a database object. You can see a table, right? You can see a view, but you cannot see a query. So there is no query. Query is a raw material, so that can be used anywhere. So table you can see that is an object. View that can see that is an object. Clear? Store procedure that you can see that is an object. Function you can see that is an object. So whatever you see that is an object. Clear? You can apply a security. You can apply a security on the views. You can apply security on the functions because it is a database object. Clear? So not everybody can grant access. When you go to databases, below there is a security tab. Have you seen this? So by default, all people can access to SQL Server by default because you have installed SQL Server in your computer, you can access it. So that is very, very easy. But in the real time, so you're not going to be installing SQL Server in your laptop and going to ICICI Bank or going to some other bank and take the cash from there. So normally, whenever you open an account, so in ICICI Bank or Deutsche Bank, what happens? You have to the same user ID has to be given permission to the security. Clear? So here, there are a lot of logins will get created automatically. Creating a login is very, very simple, right? So it is an automatic process. As soon as you go and open an account, your account ID will get added to the added in the application. Automatically, you will have a permission to this. Clear? So you can create the user ID and password automatically. That is going to come here. So you can give the user ID and password here. So whatever you wanted to create, you can give here. For example, I would like to create user ID. My domain name is Kedar and slash Bhaskar. Okay, if you wanted to search, you can also search here, and you can provide the domain name. Okay, and Bhaskar and check names, it is available. So then click on OK, it is available. So it is a Windows authentication, user ID. And if I go there, some permissions I can provide. Okay, sysadmin, setup admin, blah blah blah. So sysadmin means it is a admin guy, so you can do everything. Clear? You cannot uncheck public. Public is a default role. Default permissions will be available, so that you cannot uncheck. Clear? So when you go to sysadmin, you can provide this. If it's a normal user, so is by default public, and which database you can access. For example, you may have 100 databases in the company. If you open a bank account, you are responsible. You're supposed to you know assign it to iBank database. Clear? So within the iBank database, public means you will have some basic privileges. You will have some basic privileges. So this is how when you click on OK, so the Bhaskar Jogi is assigned to iBank database. Clear? That is how we can create a user. So go here and people will simply search, and after that they go here. I did not give any permission. Then I am assigning this user to this guy, this database, and is a public user. That's it, and click on OK. So once you click on OK, what happens? I'm not doing this because already I have, I am the user. Okay, once that is done, then you can go to database. Then you can go to iBank. Now again, you can find a security. Clear? So that is server level security you have given there. Server means you can come inside SQL Server. So when you come inside SQL Server, it does not mean that you can go anywhere. Clear? So when we're talking about security, there are two things that you need to understand. Okay, security. So when we're talking about security, SQL Server security, .NET security, Android security, Java security, one is that authentication. Authentication means it is first level permission. Okay, first level permission. The second one is called authorization. Authorization means second level permission, right? So, for example, you will go to interview today to Microsoft. So, morning 10 o'clock, you have an interview in Microsoft. You have taken a uh, interview call letter. You would reach by 9:30 to Microsoft office. And at the security level, they'll ask, who are you? You say that my name is Bhaskar Jogi. I have an interview at 10 o'clock today. I wanted to meet Mr. Peter, and this is my offer letter. Sorry, this is my interview call letter. The security will verify everything, and they'll ask you what's your name and where are you coming from. Do you have any vehicle? And take the signature. So what is that they're doing? They are asking who are you, and that is what is called first level permission. You're supposed to give whatever you have that you need to show it. So they said, yes, you're allowed 9:30, before 30 minutes you went. Then they'll clearly say, Mr. Bhaskar Jogi, you go to room number 22, please be seated there. Clear? So once you're authenticated user to the Microsoft, it does not mean that you can go to anywhere in the Microsoft. They are restricting you are allowed to sit in the room number 22. That is what is called second level permission, right? So if I am allowed to go to America, it does not mean that I can do anything. So what is I supposed to work in a company, or I supposed to, admit in a, let us say in a college, right? So first level permission means whether you're allowed to Microsoft or not, that is you're allowed. It does not mean that you can go anywhere and do, whatever you wanted to do. So that is not the thing. So the second level permission can give you, so what is that I can do? So I can go to only room number 22. Clear? So what is that I can do? In room number 22, can I open everything and do? No, only you can sit or drink. That's it. You cannot sleep, you cannot dance, you cannot do anything. So that is what is called authorization, right? So everybody in this world will have two permissions. One is called authentication, the second one is called authorization. Authentication is first level permission. So, for example, I come to your home. You say, "Hey, Bhaskar sir, welcome." Say that is first level permission. Authentication is done. "Hey, Bhaskar sir, welcome. How are you? When did you come from India? So everything is good or bad, sir? Just relax and have some food, have some snacks." So you are giving a permission. What is that? You can have some food. You can have some, this one. You can relax. You can, if you want to sleep, you can just sleep. So that is what I can do maximum at your home. It does not mean that I can open your lockers, I can take the money. So can I do like that? So I do not have the permission to open your lockers. I do not have permission to do anything other than sleeping and eating and taking some rest at your home. So the second level permission is called authorization. Clear? If you give me, sir, if you wanted to have some this one, you can just go there. Sir, if you need some cash, ask me, I'll give you. If you give me that, so that is what is called authorization. Or you can say, sir, we had some snacks there, you can take it. Sir, if you need money and you go to that cupboard and I kept some 2,000 bucks, you just have them. Right? So all these things, when you give permission, then I can do that. Otherwise, I cannot touch it. So that is what is called second level permission. Right? First level permission is you're welcoming to your house. That is authentication. If authentication works, then I can come inside your house. It does not mean that I can do anything inside your house, right? After that, you say, Bhaskar sir, do you need some cash? Because you're coming from India, you might not be having any American currency, but you can have this $1,000 with you. So that is what is that you're offering. That is what is called second level permission. Clear? So everybody in this world will have authentication and authorization. So as soon as you assign Bhaskar Jogi to second level permission, so Bhaskar Jogi can come into your home and he can go to bedroom number one, or he can have some sleep, or he can go to a kitchen and he can prepare some lunch for himself, whatever. That is the permission that you're giving. So then the second level permission, when you go here, so you will be able to provide. So this is the user. Who's the user now? Bhaskar Jogi is available and within iBank database. Now what all he can do within this database, that we need to give. When you double click on it, so you can provide, so you can execute this. Okay, you can execute this whatever you wanted to provide. So these things you should be able to provide. Is a Windows user, so what all he can provide. So he can do, he's a guest or is a DB owner, or what is that he can do in my database. Clear? Then what are the things he can access? Okay. So for example, I wanted to give him a permission to my table or my stored procedure, or he can execute a stored procedure, or he can execute a, this one, because your room is ready. Inside the room, you cannot do everything. Maximum what I can do, I can switch on the TV in your home, right? Or I can, play, songs. So, but I cannot do each and everything in the room number one as well, right? So, I am allowed to inside iBank database does not mean that I can do everything. So, what is the permission that you wanted to give him? So, those permissions can be given. So, you simply come to security tab of this, and the allowed user will be available. Then double click on this. That's it. Clear? Now you go to search. What is search? Yeah. So what is that? I will give access him. So specific objects, all objects in the types, and all objects belong to blah blah blah. You can give a type. Okay. So what is that he can access? He can access all tables, are all views, all store procedures, table valued functions. So what is that? Or all databases, what is that he can access? So that permission can be given, right? So all the tables are available here. Account master table, branch master, customer. So all the permission Bhaskar Jogi can access. Clear? But within tables, again, not all tables. Again, below there is a permission. When you click on this, so this database give a grant, right? So you can access that. So we were talking about grant, deny, revoke. So DCL commands, data control language commands. Do you remember? So that can be given like this. Okay, he can give. So grant means he can access. So I'll go to some other tables. In this, I'm not going to give any permission. I'm going to deny the permission on this. Okay. So you'll say, you come to my home and sit at on the only the hall. Not don't go to bedroom number one or don't go to bedroom number two. This is denying. Clear? So like that, we can give a permission. So what he can execute, what he cannot execute. So this is a view. On this view, I can give the permission. Clear? So what is that permission? Alter, or he can only read. Read means select. Clear? Alter means you can modify the code. Select means you can read the code. You can update the code. Okay. Or you can insert the data. So what permissions can be given? So that you can do on this view. Either reading or altering the view itself, drop view name, alter view name. So blah blah blah. Or you can only insert the data, read the data or delete the data, something like this, update the data. Clear? So like that, what are the permission that you wanted to give? You should be able to give. Click on OK. So that is how the permissions can be applied for each and every individual users. Clear? So many times you don't know how to give a security because as a developer, we never provide a security. But if somebody asks you how to provide a security, at least you should be able to know. So we need to give the permissions at the server level. That is what is called authentication. Once you give the permission here, so this is what is called authentication. You go to database and this is the server level permissions. You get a new user, right click, new user, and you can give some user ID and password and click search names. So after that, you put him into one database. So automatically that user will be part of the database. Could be ICICI Bank database. So inside this, you will be able to find some users. Clear? So Bhaskar is not here because is not assigned to this guy. So this is what is called second level permission. Clear? So first level permission, that is authentication, can be given at the server level. So when you open Windows, it will be asking a user ID and password. So that is authentication, right? First level permission to the computer. But when you go inside, then you will have a lot of other privileges. So you can access Oracle, you can access SQL Server, you can access blah blah blah, right? That is second level permission. Clear? So inside again, security, inside SQL Server, when you create a user ID database, this is the first level permission. Then later, which database you can access, which table you can access, that is what is called authorization. So everybody will have two level of permissions. Authentication is user ID and password at the starting level. So when you open Windows and you provide a login and user ID, for example, you go to ATM. ATM machine will ask you, tell me, put the debit card and tell me the password. So you provide password some 1 2 3 4, then it will say what is that you wanted to do. So that is the second level permission. So first level permission, you provide user ID and password, that is authentication. After that, you can withdraw your account from your account number. So that is a second level permission. It does not mean that you go to some other's account and you cannot withdraw his balance. So that is what the restriction, right? You can access only your account, not the other account holders. Clear? That is where the authorization can stop you to you know not to take anything from the second user or second customers from others customers from the bank. Clear? You can only restrict it to your account ID, not to others account ID. So security can be applied and it is a DB object only in the current database. Maximum 128 MB of code can be written. Only syntax check during the creation. Deferred name resolution is available. Temporary processes can be created, local and global. What do you mean by, deferred name resolution? Let me tell you. So I go and use iBank, right? I would like to create a view. So how to create a view? Create a view name. So get, customer info, some data as select star from the customer table where customer ID is equivalent to 1. So when I execute this, the first thing it will tell you customer table is not available. So when I open iBank database, so there is no customer table. Have you seen this? There is no customer table. So if I wanted to create this, I go to use iBank database. Now I wanted to create this means it cannot be because customer table is not available, right? So you cannot create anything on the non-existing item. But what I do instead of creating a view, I create a stored procedure. Let me go and I'll say create a proc. So use a stored procedure get customer info. Now I am saying as begin end. Okay. So this is extra two lines I need to write, nothing else. Right? So I wanted to create this. Now let me create it. Have you seen this? The difference? So even though the table is not available, we are able to create a stored procedure, but we are not allowed to create a view. This feature is called as a deferred name resolution. Okay, so this feature is a deferred name resolution. That means even though the customer table not available, you should be able to create everything. All the stored procedures can be created even though the tables are not available. Why this feature is given? When it is going to be checking this, it is not going to check not at the time of creating, at the time of calling. Okay, calling SP, when you say execute stored proc name, at that time it will give you an error saying that this customer table is not available, but not at the time of creating. Have you seen this? Invalid customer name is not there, so it will give you an error at the time of calling. But when you see at the creative view, at the time of creating itself, it is telling me this is not allowed. So why Microsoft is given this kind of a feature only to the procedure but not to the view? Let us understand thinking behind this. Normally, if you create any database, okay, so database means what? Tables, and you will create views, because that is what a SQL developer will do. And you create a stored procedure and you create a lot of functions, right? And you create triggers and all. So that is very limited. So as you know, creating a tables, a database, developer responsibility. Creating a views, yes. Creating a stored procedure, yes. Everything. But you will spend only 10% of the time for 10% of the time you're going to be using. So to create all these things, okay, without this, and remaining 90% of the time you are busy to work on the stored procedures. Now understand. Tables can be created within 5-10 minutes. Okay, if you have, let us say, what is the team size? As soon as you join a company, people would ask you, or in the interview, people would ask you, how many people are there in your team? You will say we are six people in the team. So we have a TL, team lead, then senior software engineer, one more senior software engineer, and one more senior software engineer. I'm a SE, software engineer, and like this. Okay, so like this. So what is the total team says? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let us say like this. 5, 6 guys are available. So this is me. So this is me. Clear? So I am reporting to senior software engineer. I have only 3.5 years of experience. I am reporting to a senior software engineer, and I am also reporting to a TL, team lead. So about TL, you have again assistant manager. Clear? So above assistant manager, then you have a manager. And assistant manager will not be part of your team because they will have a lot of other projects as well. So this is what is your team size. How many people are working in your MSBA project or SQL project? You can say team size is 6 or 7 or 3 or 4, whatever you wanted to say, and what is your role. You can tell them that I'm a software engineer. I have 4 years of experience. And if you're a senior software engineer, you can tell them that I have 7+ years of experience. Okay. If you have more than 4 or 5, then you will be senior software engineer. Okay. If you have more than 7, 8, 9, 10, then you will be a team lead. And if you have more than 12 or 15 years, then you can become assistant manager, then you can become a manager, something like this. So, what is the team size? We have 6 people, but 10% of the time only, because first time you're creating a database and first time you're creating all the tables, right? So, only 10% of the time, or one developer will be assigned this role. Remaining 5 developers are busy in creating stored procedures. Now you see, that is how the work implementation will be given. Only one guy is creating a table, view, functions, and that guy will be given a documentation, right? So what is the documentation? I had given a documentation, right? 2 guys. What is the documentation? This case studies. So you know everything before you start creating it. For example, if I open a school case study, so this kind of a document will be given already by your team lead or by architect. So you know what is the table name, what is the column name, what is the primary key, what is the foreign key, even though the tables are not available because one guy is creating all the tables, right? But 90% of the time, so remaining 5 people are creating stored procedures from day one itself. So they will only see this, column names, everything from the documentation, right? So this will not change. They create a stored procs. They create what? Stored procs, because by that time this one guy may have 100 tables or may have 200 tables, may have 300 tables. This guy may take, let me, it may take 1 month or 2 months to create this one. So meanwhile these people also will create parallelly a stored process, because as we know 90% of the time we work on the stored procs only, right? Even though you're creating a fresh database, so only 1 or 2 people are assigned with this work. Remaining all people will be assigned with this work only, because so much of a code will be written in store procedure. So even though tables are not available, so you should be able to use the column names, table names, and create a views like this. Because already you know that a customer table will get created because it is available in this table, and there is a column. So everything you can see in the documentation using that. So parallelly, what will happen, even though the tables are not available, using this documentation, a developer can create a store procedure even though the tables are available not yet available in the database. These tables may come later. Why the tables may come later? Because only one guy is creating. He may create a day after tomorrow, or he may create at this month end. So by that time they'll create. So you guys are created a lot of stored procedure. They'll give you requirement. For example, when you open, so they'll tell you this is my, this one, and this is my stored proc requirement. You create now. Now they'll understand the requirement. They create a store procedure using above tables and layout and schema. Write the store procedure for following requirements. Input parameters are this. This is what we need. This is what we need. So even though the tables are not available, the data is not available. So I should be able to create a store procedure because I know the table names and the column names. Am I clear? So why the deferred name resolution means to have a parallel SQL development. What do you mean by parallel SQL development? So some guys are responsible for creating this object, and at the same time other people will not be idle. Will not be idle. Why will not be idle? Because if the tables are not ready, then you cannot, you're not allowed to do anything. Clear? So that can, if you have this kind of a uh, issues, so this kind of issue will not come whether the table is ready or not. So other people can create parallelly by following the documentation. The other people can create store procedures based on the requirement. Clear? Because table creation will take maximum 1 week, 10 days time. But stored creation will take a lot of time because a lot of logic need to go there, right? It is not very easy. So much more people are allocated to stored procedures. Only one or two guys are allocated to this. So out of this, so you're a SQL developer. So that is how in the company you are responsible. So even though you join the company, remember maximum time you are going to work on stored proc, stored proc, stored procs. That's what you need to understand. Now you can create a local, so create a proc hash employee or create a proc double hash employee. Then you can write your SQL T-SQL code as part of this. So these procs are created inside your TempDB database. You cannot have temporary views. You cannot have temporary functions. Clear? So that's what is very, very important. Now, how to create a stored proc and syntax we had seen already. Create a proc name, input parameter, output parameters can be given. So parameters are used to supply the data to the stored procedure when you go in for input. Output parameters to get the data from the stored procedure. As begin, you can have SQL and T-SQL programming here. Okay, so you can have all DDL, DML. You can also create a table inside a stored proc. You can also drop a table. You can also alter a table. You can also do each and everything, creating, altering. You can also implement temporary tables, table variables, whatever we discussed so far, CTEs, ranking functions, whatever we talked about so far, all of them can be implemented in your proc. Clear? So you can call another SP, you can call a function, you can call a view, you can have a cursor, you can use written statement, you can use error handling, try catch blocks, you can have variables, local variable, global variable, each and everything can be implemented. Clear? So you remember stored procedure is always a bigger brother, elder brother. You can think like this. Stored procedure is always a elder brother. Then we have a views and functions. These are younger brothers. Clear? So always you remember this point. Okay. So stored procedure only will do lot of work. So he's a elder brother and these are younger guys. Okay. Younger means what? Small guys. Chota. So you can call this guys easily. Okay. Stored proc can call a view. Stored proc can give a call a function. Okay. But not the other way. View cannot call this fellow. So this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. Clear? So not the vice versa. Remember. So stored proc can call a view, but a view cannot call a stored procedure. A stored procedure can call a function, but function cannot call a stored procedure. So this is many a times you will be asked this question. Can I call a view in a view? Yes. Can I call a function in a function? Yes. Can I call a stored proc inside a stored proc? Yes. Can I call, view in a stored process? Yes. Can I call a function in a stored proc? Yes. But can I call a stored proc in a view? No. Can I call a function inside? Can I call a stored proc inside a function? That is also no. So stored proc can do everything. Stored proc can take help of a view, help of a function. So stored proc can call anything, but not the other way around. Clear? So you assume that stored proc is a bigger brother. Clear? That is what is very, very important. Let me tell you the same concept in different angle. So this is interview question, guys. Okay. So this is a view and stored procedure and function. And this is a view, stored proc and function. Okay. So let us say this is what is called caller. And this guy is calling callee. Okay, being called. So let me take like this. So who's calling? View is a caller. So view is calling one more view. Can I do that? The answer is yes. View is calling a stored procedure. Answer is no. View cannot call a stored procedure. This is a dangerous one. And view is calling a function. The answer is yes. So you can call because select create a view name, select get date blah 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 from the table name. So that can be allowed. So view can call a function. That's fine. So, okay. Stored procedure calling a view, that is yes. Stored procedure is calling one more stored procedure, yes. Stored procedure is calling a function, that is also yes. Clear? A function is calling a view, that is also yes. A function is calling a stored pros, this is what is called no. Okay? So this cannot be implemented. A function is calling one more function, that is yes. Clear? So these two are the two things that you need to remember forever. Okay, who's calling and who's being called? Calling means being called. Who's calling? Am I clear? So views can be called inside one more view. So store proc can call a store proc inside that. A function can do everything, but a view cannot call a stored procedure. A function cannot call a store procedure, but a stored proc can call everybody in this world. So this is what is the limitation, and many times in interviewer is going to be asking you this point. Clear? So that's what is very, very important. Now, what is the advantage and disadvantage of the stored proc means? So disadvantage is cannot be called as part of select, insert, update, delete. If you wanted to call a store procedure, so this is the syntax. The only this is the one is a disadvantage. Stored proc can do each and everything, but the problem is that we cannot say select stored proc name or insert into stored proc name. It cannot work. But you can call, views and functions, right, as part of select. Remember that. And at the time of creating a stored proc, we need to provide parameter, data type, default value, input and output, encryption. So once you encrypt the code, nobody can decrypt it. And you can also provide recompilation option. What is the recompilation option? We can see them later. Encryption means code will be encrypted. Nobody can see the code, right? So that is the meaning of encryption. Now you go, you can see the code of a stored procedure very, very easily. If you have the permission to go to this database, you can go to programmability. You can go here, you can right click and you can modify and see the code, right? So anybody can see the code very, very easily because it is not encrypted. But once it is encrypted, you cannot see the code like this. Okay, so that is what is called encryption. When you create a stored proc with encryption, you will not be able to see. There is a difference in text. You can say proc with encryption. You can say with encryption. When you write encryption, so automatically you cannot see the code at all. When you say modify, it will be modify button is disabled. Modify button is disabled. For example, I will show you something, right? So you see, there is a view, you can right click on this and design, or you can modify. You can see the view very, very easily. This view has this query. You can easily see it. But there is a view SB customers, right click on this. The design button is disabled. Why? Because it is encrypted. So you cannot, design, or you cannot say SP underscore. Normally, if you wanted to see the code, SP underscore help text. And inside this, you should be able to write like this, right? So when you say, you will be able to get the code very, very easily. So this is the code, right? So now let me use the same thing here for this guy. SB customers, I wanted to implement this. Let me execute. So what it is saying? Is encrypted. You are not going to be seeing the code at all. Clear? We don't know what is the code written inside this. So nobody can hack the code. Nobody can tamper the code. That is the advantage of a with encryption. How to create a views with encryption already explained in the views concept. Clear? And how to write the syntax also is applied, is already spoken. Just to watch those videos. Clear? So like that, so how can we create an encryption? When you create an encryption, what happens? You will not be able to see the code at all. But if you wanted to modify the code, then definitely you need to have a copy of the code somewhere. So before encryption, you need to take a copy of the code and store in some server. Clear? So you go to that server, get that code before encryption, and you can modify it and you can implement the same code here again with encryption. Clear? So before encryption, you preserve a copy of the code elsewhere because you will not be able to modify tomorrow if you wanted to modify this code. Recompilation option also will discuss and defaults also will discuss. So how to create a stored proc, we know already. So this is what is very, very important. If you create a stored procedure, first time when you're executing, what all will happen? Existence checks for all objects referred, validations, compatibility of columns, data type with variables used, creation of an execution plan, volume of data, nature and presence of indexes, comparison operators, presence of joins, unions, group by, order by keywords. Everything will be taken into consideration and it's going to be creating a plan and that is going to be cached and reused for the subsequent calls. Let us understand. First time you have already created a store procedure and first time you're calling the stored proc. First time. So what are the things will happen internally? So that is what we are going to be understanding. Okay, let me close this. Now, I wanted to show you one stored proc already we have created, right? Let me go to Indian Bank and where are the stored proc? Let me open one stored proc. So how to open the stored proc? There are multiple things. Right click on this and modify, or you can say sp underscore help text stored proc name, or you can say script stored procedure as a create to new query window or drop and create to. Okay, to new query editor window. Clear? So this is what is the stored proc. So it will give you drop. When you execute it, it is going to be dropping the stored procedure and it's going to be creating the stored procedure. Okay. So if you need drop and create, so existing stored procedure will get dropped and it's going to be getting created. Now this is my stored proc name. Now, first time I'm executing, how to execute the stored proc, we know. We'll say exec stored proc name. So this is the stored proc name. And you give a input parameter. What is the input parameter? Account ID I supposed to supply. I'll supply, I'm going to be executing it. When you're going to be executing the first time, you got some data. So this is output level. But internally, what all happened internally? What all happened internally that you are not aware of? So that is what the slide is saying. First time executing a stored procedure, what all things will happen? Existence check for all objects reference. For example, I told you I'm using an object called account master. So SQL Server will verify whether do we have this table or not. That is a step number one. It's going to be doing. Step number two, compatibility of columns data type with variables used, variables parameters. For example, I told account ID integer and I am supplying account ID here. Okay. But if I declare account ID is varchar, let us say 100. Clear? So if I put account ID varchar 100, I am supplying 102. See, 102 will be varchar, but what account ID it is actually? Account ID is integer, but you have defined as a what? Varchar. So when you provide 102, 102 will go here as a varchar. So when you get a 102 here, 102 is not an integer, it is a varchar column. So we'll get compatibility issues. Okay. Let me show you by putting this. Alt Alt I have declared as a varchar data. Now same thing I'm going to be giving it here. Okay. I'm going to be altering this. So when you give varchar data, you must give in a single quote, right? So varchar or character data can be given like this. When you trying to execute, now I'm able to get because even the varchar data implicitly it is converting. So let me give you something else here. Let me change it to date and time. Clear? So can I give you date and time data? If I give you some other data here, date and time data like 2009, say 10, like this. Now, if I'm trying to execute this, what happens? It will give you a lot of issues because you don't know what is happening here to here. So when you try to execute this and try to go and try to execute this, it is not giving you anything because the compatibility, a lot of things are not properly happening. Clear? So all these things it's going to be verified because it's supposed to be integer. You are giving something else. It may give you or it may not give you because SQL Server, even that is a varchar data, it is happening. But if you go in for Oracle, same code may not work. Same code may throw you some kind of an error. So here it is not throwing an error. So all these things it is going to be verified. So what are the variables? What are the data types here? And what is actually data type? Are we having same kind of a data types or not? So that is going to be verified. Clear? Volume of data. What do you mean by volume of data? How much data we have in this table? So that is also SQL Server is going to consider at the time of executing the stored proc first time. Then nature and the presence of the indexes. So what are the indexes the table has? How can we see the indexes on a table? So if you wanted to see the index already, I have given indexes class. You can just watch. If you wanted to see the indexes on a given table, you go to table. So you go to a table here. When you open it, you should be able to see columns, all columns you can see, all primary keys and foreign keys you can see. It has a primary key and foreign key. You can see all check constraints, right? You can see all triggers. You can see all indexes here. Clear? So there is an index is created on this and there is statistics also. Clear? So each and everything you can see in front of your eyes. Clear? Or if you wanted to see all indexes, you can see sp underscore help table name. So what is the table name? Table name is a master table. Clear? So whether we have indexes or not, you should be able to execute like this and see all the index names, check constraints, each and everything. So see, so index name is this, right? It is a clustered index. It is created on account ID table. Clear? So lot of things you can see by executing this command sp underscore help table name will give you so all the objects, what are the columns, what is the data types, whether we have primary keys, foreign key, check constraints, everything can be verified like this. So using a UI, you can just open this and you should be able to see what is the index name. So, whether we have statistics or not, whether we have constraints or not, whether we have keys or not, what is this primary key, foreign key, columns, what columns, everything it is there in front of you only. You need not go anywhere. Clear? So you please follow my indexes class. And I told you three topics are important to crack SQL interview. One is queries. Second topic is stored procedures. Third topic is indexes. That's it. If you know these three topics very well, then you can crack 90% SQL questions. So again, definitely they'll ask you what is a temporary table, what is a CTE, what is a ranking function, what is the difference between a derived table to CTE, CTE to temporary table, what is a local temporary, what is a global temporary. So these are extra questions may come. What is a stored proc, what is the view, what is a function. So you will get one or two questions here and there, but maximum questions are asked from the queries and stored procedures and indexes. Do you know how to create an index? What is the purpose of the index? And what are the types of the indexes we have in SQL Server? So a lot of questions are going to come. Clear? And please watch my indexes videos and take the complete notes. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me anytime. So first time it's going to be doing, right? So volume of data, nature and presence of the indexes, comparisons operators. Comparison means, so this is a comparison operator, or I can say this is also one more operator, or I can say like this, or I can say not equals to, okay, or equals to, or greater than or equals to, or I can say in operator, right? So what is the operator that you're using? So depends upon that also, it is going to be creating a plan, comparison operators, presence of joins, unions, group by. So I don't have any joins, or I can say as a join, transaction master, right? I can have a join as well as a B on condition A dot account ID is equivalent to B dot account ID, and where clause is this, right? So later I may have a group by clause, group by something else, group by, let us say, transaction type wise. Okay, so then I wanted to know number of transactions, right? Or transaction type wise, sum of transaction amount, something like this. I wanted to have as a total. Clear? So in this, I'm using. So here I'm using a group by clause joins and everything. Then I am planning to execute this query where column it is having a dot accounted, because ambiguity will be there, right? Because same column is available here and there, so ambiguity will be there. Clear? So when I execute this, it is going to be getting executed. When it is being executed first time, so these are the things will get verified, and it is going to be plan. It's going to be creating a plan, and the plan is cached and reused for subsequent calls. Second time onwards, first time I have created, I have executed. Second time, if I'm going to execute this stored proc is very, very faster. Why? Because it's created a plan and the plan is cached. For example, first time I am coming to America. For example, next month 10th, I'm going to visit America from India. I don't know how to come to America. I have a passport. First, I need to apply for a visa. First time I'm doing, I don't know. I'm Googling and collecting lot of data and filling the application, going to the American consulate, and I'm doing lot of things. I don't have a clue at all. So when I go there, there are many people at the queue. So based upon that, it'll take a lot of time. So I knew that every Monday and Tuesday more people will be there. I came to know that Saturday no guys will not will be there in the American office. So lot of information I gathered in my experience. Clear? So I've struggled a lot and I have applied. I got a visa. I know how, I don't know how to buy it flight tickets, and where and all I can get a cheaper flight tickets and all, but somehow I googled and asked many people, and somehow everything is done. Now I came to America. So after 6 months again, I wanted to bring my mother or my brother or my wife to America. Already have a plan, right? Already have a plan. So what I do, I come to India, and again what I do, I am planning to apply a visa for my wife. Now you tell me, will you be faster or will you be again struggling with the same difficulties as earlier? Definitely not. Why? Because you know how to apply a visa, you know how to apply a passport, you know how to buy a better, a cheaper flight tickets, because you have an experience. So how did you get the experience? Because your brain is caching some data, but you have a disease and you're forgetting everything. So what will happen? Even though you have done first time, you don't remember anything, then do you again follow the old instructions given by brain, because your brain is not storing anything. So that is what is called caching. If you don't cache anything in your brain, so definitely the second time also you will follow the same thing. So because you are not caching the earlier experience. Okay. However, human beings are very, very faster. Second time, first time, stop process when you execute, it will be slow. First time experience, it will be slow because stored proc also does not know so how to execute. So it's going to be creating a plan. So on what basis it's going to be creating a plan? Based on these parameters. Clear? So the plan is cached. This is what is called experience, right? That will be cached. When you call, when you do the same activity second time for your wife or mother, so definitely you're going to be very, very faster. Clear? So many people would tell you why stored procs are faster compared to views and functions. View and functions are going to be creating a plan So that is not going to be cached permanently. Clear? But stored proc is going to be creating a plan so that will get cached permanently. Second time when you call the stored proc, what happens? The stored procs are very, very fast. Clear? So programming a store procedure, some create statements are not allowed, can reference objects in other database and other servers, can reference temporary tables. Creation of temporary tables inside a store process is allowed and removed when the stored proc exits. That means what? You can create a hash employee, then execute the stored proc. So as soon as the stored proc is executed, the temp DB will be removed from the temp DB database. Calling another stored procedure can be implemented, can access all objects created by the other caller. So these are few programming features that will implement it tomorrow. Clear? So nesting is allowed. I can call a stored proc, and that stored proc can call one more stored proc. That stored proc can call one more stored proc. Like that, 32 levels of nesting is allowed. Clear? So after that, it is going to be failing. It is going to be rolling back. So no limit of number of store processes invoked from a store process. I can call 1,000 people directly. So that is no problem. But I'm calling you, you're calling somebody else. The someone is calling someone else. That is what is called a nesting. Clear? Even in subqueries, we can have 32 levels of nesting, not more than that. Clear? In stored proc also, we can call a stored proc. That stored proc is calling one more stored proc, like that. Maximum 32 levels of nesting is allowed. So each and every time when you nest, there is a global variable. It is going to be, counting how many, calls already happened. So I'm calling you. This is nest level 1. So you're calling somebody else, nesting level 2. Somebody is calling somebody level nesting level 3. So automatically at the rate next level is allowed. It can identify how many times already you are in the nesting. How many times you have completed in the nesting. Recursion is allowed. What do you mean by that? I am calling you, you are calling me. I am calling you, you are calling me. So that is also maximum 32 levels. So creating a nesting level is very, very simple. Create a proc, say sp1 as begin, and I can say like this, exec sp2. So I am calling sp2. Whether sp2 is there or not, we don't know. But let me create sp2 here, and I am calling sp1 here. So okay. So you're calling me, I am calling you. So you're calling me, I am calling you. So maximum 32 levels you can call here. If you can write like this. So I'm calling. So if at the rate next level is equivalent to lesser than or equals to 32 level, you can call. Okay. Else you can say you return or you break it. Return means you come out. Clear? So something like this you can say, or you can call up to only 10 levels. After that you come. Return means you stop it. You stop it, don't call it. So you should be able to read automatically. When you first time calling, the next level variable is going to be storing 1. So second time again when you're calling, it is a 2. So this kind of implementation can be done. Okay. So here you're going to call sp1. Clear? So you can also call execute sp2. So same inside a stored proc, the same stored proc also can be called. Okay, we can create the same stored proc can be called. That is also recursive. I can call others indirect recursive, direct recursive. That means I can call myself. I can call other stored procs as well. That is also, it is also going to fail when it crosses 32 levels. Clear? So all these things possible, but maximum only 32 levels. Remember this points forever. Recursion allowed, direct recursion and indirect recursion is allowed. Written statement and everything we're going to be discussing in tomorrow's class. Thank you guys. Any questions?